So yeah, here we are with episode today of That's All Funny. We have a professional poker player, beautiful guest, Ash Kardash. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm tired. I don't know. It's just a gloomy day. I don't know if it's rainy over there where
Third
you're
cup of
at.
coffee.
I know I'm gonna hit my second energy drink in a little while. I'm just trying to ration it. I don't want to
Yeah.
get drink too many of them and then not be able to sleep.
I'm already
Uh
jittery, so
But that's I don't know. I say like I'm old. That's fine for you younger people. No, yeah,
I'll
it's
I'll I'll drink coffee all day and sleep like 3 hours at night.
it's just how we are nowadays. We'd rather be jittery and be energetic than I don't know. It's a weird. And then I know you have like a family to kind of balance out, so that's
I do.
even yeah, that's even more on top of what you already do, as far as
It is. It's stressful, but
yeah, I
I get it
can't.
done.
Well, yeah, I can imagine a little bit. I mean, I have nieces, but I can't imagine like your day, where you have.
So, for the most part, the kids are with their dad because they go to a better school than where I live. So, I live in a very rural town, and the school system here is awful. So, I have them on the weekends and like through all their school holidays, and I let them like go to school where their dad lives. So, it's just a lot more convenient for me, especially with traveling too.
Oh no, that's good. No, and I know even the argument could be that homeschooling is like all yeah. Well, that's hard in itself.
Yeah.
To
I remember,
maintain all that. Hmm.
COVID happened, and then the kids are at home, and I was like, "I can't teach these kids." I was like, "I don't have the patience for this." Like, I'm gonna fire the teacher the first day. I'm drunk on the first day. I can't do this. So I
Well,
would never.
that's why it takes a lot, to become a
It
teacher.
does.
It's one thing to know how to do it, it's another thing to teach someone how to do it. Believe me, I've worked, regular jobs where you know how to do it, but to train someone, it
It's
takes a whole
hard.
different yeah, it's a whole different monster with your patience and the person wanting to learn. You can't imagine your own kids, you're there with them trying to balance out, okay, I'm your teacher right now, I'm not your mom, and
They don't
then
listen,
yeah,
and they don't
no.
care.
They could be the nicest kids, perfect kids, and they'll still rebel because
Oh, absolutely.
that's just in the
Absolutely.
code. Yeah, that's just how kids are. That's how we are. Uh, I know you. What inspired you to like play poker or aspired you to? Because it's kind of a adult game, right? I mean, we don't really
It is.
teach kids to play it, and I'm not saying you're not a kid or adult, but I don't know if you started younger or if anyone
Um,
showed it to you.
so I dated a guy, and he played in a bar poker league, and he played like little underground cash games, and I kind of picked up on it very fast. I was like, if I don't learn how to play poker, like this relationship is not going to last. So I started playing these bar poker leagues, and there was a man named Howard Rose that ran the chapter before he passed away. He was a very sweet man, and he's like, "You're a really quick learner." He's like, "I want to teach you how to deal. I think you'd be really good at it." So he kind of took me under his wing. He taught me the basics of dealing and playing, and just really taught me the love of the game. And it just kind of snowballed. It was a snowball effect. That's all I can say. I started dealing for a bar league, and then I started up my own bar league. And then in between that, I was playing cash games, and I'm like, I want to do something more. So I started following the WSOP circuit. And I think that's kind of what did it for me. I followed the circuit for an entire year. And then after that, I met somebody that put me in contact with Ryan Feldman over at Hustler, and
Mhm.
that's kind of what just like catapulted like my name into like the spotlight because nobody knew what I was, like who I was or where I came from or basically anything. And just one thing led to another. I got to play on Max Payne Monday, and my name just kind of blew up then, and I've been doing it ever since. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's cool. It's a very I don't know what you call like a rags to riches underdog story.
yeah, it,
Yeah.
it's uh, it happened so fast. So I started playing 3 years ago. And
Mhm.
then when I left here, when I left my hometown back in May to go play the WSOP over the summer in Vegas, I looked at my boyfriend and I was like, I have a feeling that my career is about to blow up. And that's a really hard thing to say because I don't play tournaments. I play cash for the most part. And in the poker world, like unless you really play like huge high stakes cash or you play a lot of tournaments and you have recognition from that, like you just don't get recognized. People don't know you who you are. There's a lot of great players that go their entire life being unrecognized. And it's not why I started playing poker, but it's kind of cool that this is where it ended up being.
Mhm.
Um, so I left here and I was like, I feel like my career is really about to blow up. I get out there, I play Max Payne. I get invited to play a CSOP tournament as a celebrity bounty or like a featured bounty, whatever you want to call it. And just one thing led to another. I got invited to play on other streams that I ended up turning down at the time because of my health issues. Um, but it's just been really, really cool to see that like I came from absolutely nothing and like playing like a free tip buy-in like at a bar poker league to now like playing like the greatest like poker show, in the world. And it's so surreal because I come from a town that has like 1,500 people. Like there's
Mhm.
nothing here. Like all we have is cows, chickens, and apples. And if you grow up here, like you're stuck here for the most of your life. There's
Mhm.
not a lot of people that leave. And from the time that I was really, really young, like I remember telling myself, like, this is not what I want. Like, I don't want to be stuck here being, so and so's daughter, and this is all I know. Like, I want more. I want to explore the world. So, very early on, like, I left the nest, kind of made my name. I did finance work before I got into poker, and then COVID happened. And that's when I just, like, became a degenerate, I guess. I started playing bar poker all the time, and here we are now, like, 3 years later. So, it's been pretty
No.
incredible.
No, that sounds amazing, and, yeah, I feel like I'm not saying you make it less impactful, but I'm sure it was like a rush, like, of all
It
these,
was It was a rush. So, the guy that I started playing, or the reason that I started playing was my ex-boyfriend. We ended up on really bad terms. He was a very toxic, abusive person. And I haven't really ever talked about that. But one of the main things that like we argued about is that I was like, I feel like I'm good enough to play professionally. Like I want to do something more. And he's like, you'll never make it. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you know how hard like people play. Like he gave himself as an example. He was a lot older than I am, and he said, "I've been playing for 20 years, and I've never done anything with poker. So like, how could you?" And I'm like, "Just watch, just watch." So after we broke up, and we went our separate ways, I was like, God, I really, really want this, and I want it bad enough. Like I I did the math. I was home maybe 28 days last year. Other than that, like I was playing the WSOP circuit and just playing cash games full time or dealing cards. And I just feel like every sacrifice was absolutely worth it. I gave up a lot. I gave up my freedom. I gave up my friends. I sacrificed a lot of time with my children, and I just worked my ass off for it. I worked really, really hard, and I think that for the longest, I was just like, I'm really undeserving of this. Like, I don't deserve it. Like, there's people who do spend a lot of time and don't get the recognition that they deserve. And for me to just come in and have it handed to me so easily. Like it just didn't feel fair, but at the same time, I feel like I worked really hard for it. So it's an adjustment. It's been an adjustment period of getting used to it.
well, and I believe you absolutely deserve it, because of course, hearing that from your, past partner, you could have easily said, "He's right," and not have done anything, but
Yeah.
it's not saying that luck maybe wasn't a part of it or the right place at the right time for you, but you
Mhm.
had to be in those places at those times. You had to put in the
Absolutely.
own work. So to just leave it off of, well, you don't deserve it, but I'm happy about it. I don't know. It sounds like, I hate that he put you in that mindset, but then also, uh good for you that catapulted from it. I don't know if you did it out of spite or out of like trying to prove him wrong,
Yeah.
or if he was a supportive person, it wouldn't have put you in that. But it's strange the way life works like that, where when you
Um,
feel like it challenges you the hardest is when you reach your highest potential. I just hate you had to go through that, of course.
it it was really really hard, but I think ever since I was a kid, like, I just knew that I wasn't meant for, like, a normal job, like, I can't do a 9 to 5. I have terrible ADHD, so I just couldn't do that, like, I knew I was, like, destined for bigger things, I just never in a million years would think that, poker's my strong suit or where I belong, because it's very niche, but I think I get off on, like, proving people wrong. It's like, you can tell me, "You're not gonna do this," or, "You're not worthy of this," or, you know, I don't know, it just always stuck with me that he was like, "You're no one, like, who are you? Like, you're no one, you don't even play tournaments, like, you don't have any recognition," and I just wanted to prove him wrong, like, I wanted to prove everybody wrong. My parents were like, "Are you insane? Like, you wanna be a professional what?" And I'm like, "I wanna be a professional poker player," and they're like, "Come on, like, you have a degree, like, go do something else. You have a whole business degree, like, you're just throwing it to waste." And I'm like, "No, but, like, I think, I can do this." So my parents were really unsupportive too. Like, my entire family thought I was just insane and that I had, like, gone off my rocker, so I was like, "You guys, just give it a minute, like, I'm gonna prove you all wrong, like, I got this, just be patient with me." Um, when I started playing last year, I told myself that I would give myself a year, and then at the end of that year, I'd reevaluate and see where I was at, and if I had made any kind of, progress, that I would stick with poker, and if not, I would just go back to doing what I used to do, which was insurance, and lo and behold, God just opened up the path for me, and that it's all God. To me, it's all God.
Mhm.
I remember I got down to a really low point where I had just gone through my bankroll, and I fell asleep praying that night, and I was like, God, maybe I'm not meant to do this. Maybe my parents were right. Maybe everyone else is right that, this is a really tough thing to do. It's not meant for everyone. And I was ready to give up. And I was like, let your will be done. If I'm meant to do this, then I am. And the very next day, a guy that I had mutual friends with reached out to me and he was like, "I want to stake you." And he's like, "And if I had any idea of like your potential or if you have any references, like I would love to stake you. I think you have potential and I could coach you." And he had actually staked one of my really good friends and he put in a good work for me and he picked me up and it was just endless possibilities after that. And he has been just the kindest person helping me get to the point that I'm at today. So shout out to my backer. Um, Go him. So
Well, no, I don't know. It's just amazing. Like, I was reading, some of your Twitter and seeing the events you play and stuff like that, and I had no idea your story was so, like, like you said, rags to riches. And it seems like the people closest to you were the ones pushing you the hardest down. And it's just like, man, to be where you're at now and prove them wrong is just amazing.
it
Uh,
feels really great.
yeah, and then it's only, I'm sure, the tip of the iceberg. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, you still got so many other mountains to climb that I'm sure you're gonna get done very easily. It's, like you said, you're being catapulted up there. So nothing but uh great thoughts for you, and I just hope it gets even better.
Yeah. I
Uh
actually just finished up a phone call with really exciting news. So hopefully there's some big things coming towards the end of the year. And I'm really excited and looking forward to that, but it's too early to speak on yet. So
oh, I know that feeling.
it's,
I hate
it's,
what is it, counting your eggs before they hatch? I hate
yes. And I'm just so excited about it. And I'm like, oh my God, like if this happens, like this is like probably the biggest thing that's probably going to happen in my poker career. And I'm really, really excited about it. So
But then
fingers crossed.
I love too that you had a plan. You were like, "Okay, if this doesn't work out, I know what I'm gonna do." You're
Yeah.
biting the bullet, but at least it's not like, "Hey, I'm putting all my chips here, all everything here, and if it doesn't happen, oh shoot, I'm screwed. That's it. Game
Yeah,
over."
no, I always had a backup plan. I always had a backup plan. I think that the lifestyle in itself is very romanticized, and people are like, "Oh, like I want to be a poker player," but you always have to have, at least for the most part, another source of income. It's very easy to go broke in this industry,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's super easy. I mean, I went broke
Uh-huh.
maybe 8 months into it, and I was just like, "Oh my God, like I don't even know like where to start, like where to find a backer," and it just fell into my lap. Like there's no other way that I can describe it. It just fell into my lap and I was so lucky. So
Well, and
it's
that too, you're playing well too. You have it's I like my buddy, he plays poker, online, and I know the rules. I'm not a very good player, me personally, but I get the strategy of it. You have to know, basically math and how what hands your opponent can have that can defeat you.
Mhm.
If like all the possibilities. So
It's
you
there's endless studying that goes into it,
yeah.
absolutely.
I wouldn't even sell yourself short. Yeah, I get. I love that you have the faith and that you don't uh uninclude God in it, but it is probably a lot of you too that's
Oh,
making this happen. So don't sell yourself short, of
thank you.
course.
Thank you.
And where would you say was like I say the turning point where you knew? I think we were talking about earlier where you knew you were gonna take this head on professionally, like, but would it where it
So,
came from amateur to you know what? No, I'm gonna like be a professional. This is it.
I think last year, one of my friends, we'll call her my adoptive mom, the first ever poker tournament that she plays, she goes and wins it. She wins the ladies' tournament in Cherokee for like $10,000 in February of last year. So she got a seat to play the Tournament of Champions. And she's like, hey, like you should come out. Like it would be a lot of fun. So I ended up flying out to Vegas last summer. And it was just the atmosphere. Like I could just feel how electrifying it was. And I was just like, this is what I want. Like, I want to play full time. Like, this is so cool. Like, just to see everybody. And for the most part, a lot of people are really inviting and they're like, hey, like, like, do you need help? Like, I remember going up to a kiosk to like try to deposit money for something. And they were like, oh, like, this is how you do it. And everybody was just super helpful. And I like just wanted it so bad. Like, that was the point for me that it's like, God, like, I just don't want to go back to a regular job. Like, this is what I want to do.
Hmm.
And my mom always told me from the time that I was really little, she was like, if you're going to do something, I don't care. It may sound vulgar, but she's like, I don't care if you're a prostitute. I don't care if you're a drug dealer. I don't care what you do. As long as you are happy and you give it 150%, I don't care what you do.
The passion is there as
And
long as the
so I
passion's
hit my
there.
mom with that. I was like, but wait, ma'am, you told me to follow my dreams and give everything that I do 150%. And this is what I want. So I came back from Vegas because I was only out there for like the last week of the series. I come home and I talk to my parents and I'm like, I think that this is what I want to do. And I swear they probably thought I was like losing my mind. They're like, you want to do what? And I was like, I'm just going to play for a year. If I don't do anything after this year, like I'll just call it quits. Like, I just want to try it out. And I started playing consistently after that. I was probably playing like 2 or 3 WSOP stops every month. So I was doing that, but I wasn't playing tournaments. I was sticking to cash. I may play like a tournament here and there, but for the most part, it was cash and it was doing really, really well for me. And then I was also dealing on the side. So I was dealing a really large home game. And that was able to like bankroll myself for a while. And learning money management was probably the hardest thing because it's like from having like a normal paying job to all of a sudden like making like $5,000 overnight. It's like, oh my God, like this doesn't happen. Like what?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it was just so surreal to me. But then I got greedy and I moved up in stakes when I wasn't ready to move up in stakes. And that kind of like, it was defeating to have to move back down in stakes. But it's like, okay, realistically, like if this is what I want to do, like sometimes you have to make sacrifices and it's okay to go back down to the bottom and then like climb yourself up. So I felt very defeated at that point. I think this happened in, I want to say April. In April is when I went like broke. I had played a lot of like $10,000 like buy-ins, like just going through like $10,000 like almost every stop, just playing cash, like even 1-3, like 2-5, just being greedy, and I was drinking a lot. So
Mm.
it's there's no responsibility. You're your own bankroll manager. So I got greedy. I started drinking a lot. I was partying, and I went broke. I was irresponsible, and then I was like, okay, like this is not the way to do it. And that's when I was just like, okay, like maybe I do have to give up a little bit early. And just like the very next day, like my backer comes into my life and he's like, hey, like I want to stake you. And he's been nothing but supportive. Um, he actually played on one of the shows on Hustler Casino as well. And he's like, I think you would do really well on Max Payne. He's like, how do you feel about playing on it? And at this point, like I didn't even know like what Hustler Casino was. I lived under a complete rock. And he's like, I'm gonna reach out to Ryan Feldman and see what I can do. And I was like, okay. He texts me and he's like, here's Ryan Feldman's number, like reach out to him. I reach out to him, and then I reached out to Billy, DGAF on the show. And he's like, yeah, how do you feel about playing this day? Like immediately, like just doesn't even ask me like any questions. Like, how do you feel about playing on this day? And I was like, oh, like really? Like, are you serious right now? I remember like just bawling and like telling all of my friends about it. Like those that were really, really close to me, I was just like, this is really happening. Like, pinch me. Like, this can't be happening. Like, I'm no one. Like, I don't have any recognition. I don't play tournaments. Like, I'm really undiscovered. Like, nobody knows who I am. So for me to have that opportunity, it just, I think it changed everything. It absolutely changed everything. And I'm really thankful for it. So
No, and I'm glad. You know, sometimes someone just needs that, step in the right direction, the rub, if they call it, I think in wrestling. So no, I'm glad you were able to get that little bit of spotlight and go with it, and you use it to its full potential to get out there.
absolutely.
No, it's amazing. What's your favorite hand to play? Is it? It's not a Jack four offsuit, is it?
um, so when I started playing, it was really 10-5. I loved playing 10-5. And everybody was like, why are you playing that donkey ass hand? And I'm like, well, I was like, listen, just hear me out. Hear me out.
Okay,
You
okay.
can't hit a straight without one or the other. And that was like my whole logic behind it. I was like
Hmm.
10-5. And I played it all the time, and it's just not a good hand to play. And then after that, I was like, well, I got to change it to something else. So now I will forever play Ace King because of Ash Kardash. So Ace King. I was like, if I look at an ace and then I get a king under it, oh, I'm all in. Every hand.
I swear, my buddy, he's always playing king, pair of kings, and I'm like, oh my god, that's like the hand that's gonna kill you, a pair of kings, because
Yeah.
I feel like there's always gonna be someone out there with a pair of aces.
Yeah.
When you have the kings, but you can't not play pair of kings. I feel like
Absolutely.
I don't know.
You have
Uh,
to.
yeah, you have to. It's pair of kings. And I know we were talking a little bit about it. You know, heaven forbid, you weren't as successful as you are now. Where did you see yourself kind of going? Not a backup plan, but what would you pursue? Like other things besides playing poker.
Um,
What would you like to do?
so
I'll say.
I'm in the restaurant business as well. My parents have owned a restaurant for, let's see, I can't math right now, like 34 years, like 34, 35 years. And they closed it during COVID, and it is being remodeled right now. And I expect it to be open in January of this coming up year. So while I'm not playing poker, I still have, the restaurant as my backup plan. And then before that, I did finance and insurance for car dealerships. So,
Okay.
I always have a backup plan,
Hmm.
finance and just being a mom. I think I'd be living a normal life, but I'm here.
Oh, and I'm sure you do the normal life
Absolutely.
things, but
Absolutely.
yeah, of course with poker there's that fast life too, of just being
Yeah.
out in that atmosphere with those people. So I get it. Or at least I would. I've only been to a casino and played a few times. I live here in Texas, so I went to
Okay.
the Kickapoo. There's like a Indian casino in
Okay.
Eagle Pass, and it's fun. I don't know. I'm not a gambler. Uh,
Not for everyone.
yeah, it really isn't. It's fun, but I'm there like, ooh, that's grocery money for me right there. I'm more of a
Yeah,
I
no, I
just
get
could
it.
not see myself gambling like that for sure. But I'm unlucky. I'll say that. I do watch like I know here in Austin they have that poker lodge. I don't know if you've ever
The
been to
lodge.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems real nice from what I've seen on the clips. I see, and you had mentioned about women only poker tournaments. Do um do you think that's like a positive thing that they separate women from men, or I'm
I
not saying
think,
they're separating them, but it's not
yeah.
really a game that is genderly specific to where it's like, oh, brute strength or anything. Uh,
Um,
you know
I
what I
think
mean?
it's fun for the women to have like their own like thing that they can play, because for the most part, like I think like 5% of all poker players are women. That's a
Mhm,
really really small number compared to all of the men that play. It's a very like male dominated game.
mhm,
So I think that for them to like give the women their recognition and allow them to play like their own tournament, because a lot of these women, I mean, there's some really great players. I'm really good friends with Jamie Vertusio. Angela Jordison is great. I mean, they're just absolute crushers. And it's great that they have their own field away from the men. It's like the seniors event. Like, we're not going to go and, go knock down the seniors. We're not going to go, talk down on the rookies, like when they have their rookies tournaments, which is a little bit more regional. But I think it's good that the women have their own field. I think that I'm going to touch on this subject very, very shortly.
mhm.
There was a man who won or entered and played a women's tournament. And then he final tabled it, and he was just really disgusting to all of the women at the final table. And I
Mhm,
think that it really destroys the integrity of it, of like the purpose of why this field was created. It's just for women because you guys can go and register literally any tournament. Just
mhm,
give the ladies like a little bit, like just give them their own tournament. It's a lot of fun. And, when I started playing, I thought it was really intimidating to have to sit down at a table full of men that are just going to stare you down. Some are
mhm,
really welcoming, but some are really rude. So I would understand, if you have somebody that doesn't play a lot that just wants to go play their first tournament for a smaller buy-in, them playing the ladies is a way, like it's a great way to do that. So it's kind of infuriating to let men play these events just because you can't turn them down.
yeah.
So
No, and then for him to be a sore piece of shit like that, like, to
yeah,
and that gives even more reason why these tournaments should exist, where they have
absolutely,
women only and men only, because some people just ruin it like that for everyone. I don't
absolutely,
know. Yeah, I completely get that. I was just thinking that too. As far as like a woman in, I'm not saying in a man's tournament, but like in the setting where it's like men and versus women, or men and not versus women, but
yeah.
men and women at the same thing. Wouldn't you think that women would have the advantage over men? Uh,
Yes and no. It
yeah.
depends. There are some men that are really nasty at the table, and I've encountered a few of those. But at the same time, there is an advantage. Some men are just willing to dump off piles to you just to keep you around a little bit longer. I've experienced it myself. I actually had a really funny
It
story
was.
about something that happened to me over the summer.
Uh
Um, I went to go play a PLO tournament, and after my table like broke, I got moved from like a really like great atmosphere. Like everybody was talking to everybody, everybody was super nice, and it was all men at my table, and they were all super nice. And then I get moved to like a table with like 6 euros, and everybody's just like quiet, like nobody's talking except the guy next to me, and he was super nice, and everybody else was just like giving you like the death stare, but they were still being nice. Um, and then somebody bust me. And this guy like just stands up and starts screaming at the guy who busted me. He's like, "Why the fuck did you bust her?" Like in this thick Russian accent. He's like, "Why the fuck did you bust her? She has boobs. We have boobs at the table." This is great. This is great. This is what I live for. I thought it was hilarious, but it's just like sometimes men want to keep you around a little bit longer, so that can be your angle. But sometimes they're also really like rude, so you have to tighten up a little bit better and just play better than them. Some men have really fragile egos and don't like women beating them. So,
Mhm.
I mean, it's just a coin flip. Sometimes you're going to get stuck at a table with a bunch of men that are like super friendly, and sometimes you just have that one drunk asshole that's just super rude.
Mhm.
So, I don't know, but I use it to my advantage as much as I
That's
can.
good. No, that's
So,
fun. That you're able to play into it. I mean, yeah, if you have the strength or the assets, why not play into them? And
absolutely.
that's that's
There
so
was a
that's
there was a
hilarious.
guy that was really drunk in Cherokee, and it's like every hand, baby doll, baby doll. I'm like, can you please not call me that? Like I was already like tired, and I was just like, I just need to play a little bit longer. Please stop calling me baby doll. And then Nick Bertucci commented on it because I posted a tweet about it. And he's like, honey, just smile and wave and you're baby doll tonight. And I'm like, you know what? If that's what's making me money, I'm baby doll all night. Call me whatever you want. Call me whatever you want. So you just have to
No.
adapt.
Yeah, exactly. There's no shame in that game at all, you know. Sometimes I would like believe me if I'm playing a video game and I could just keep hitting the boss over and over again, cheesing it like that. Why not? Especially if
Yeah.
it's making you money. Um, I remember I tweeted at you, and that's kind of where I followed you because you tweeted about inner monologues. Uh, and, and you had like put a like a poll about it
A
if people
poll,
had
yeah.
inner monologues, and I had talked to you real quick about it, like on the Twitter. How does your friend say he not have inner monologue? Like
Yeah,
if
so
you're even at a poker table, you're in your head
I'm
thinking,
talking to myself the entire
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. How are you not like? What do you hear in your head if you don't hear your own voice?
So when that happened, I was talking to my best guy friend and I was like, talking about an inner monologue. And he's like, yeah, I don't think I have that. And I'm like, what? And he's like, well, I can still like visualize stuff. Like if you tell me like imagine an apple on the table, like I can visualize it. But like as far as having like a voice in my head, like it's just there's nothing. And I'm like, what? And I thought like he was just insane. So I text like my best friend, Avi, who also plays on Max Payne Monday. I reached out to her and I'm like, dude, like so and so said that they don't have a inner monologue. Like what? She's like, I don't have one either. And she's like, but it's loud in there. She's like, it's just like a bunch of static and like, just noise, but there's no inner monologue. I'm like, what? Like I can't get mine to shut up. Like I'm trying to go to
Yeah,
sleep and it's like tomorrow you have to do this. Like tomorrow, like you should have done this differently. Like my inner monologue just doesn't shut up. She's so loud. And I'm like, am I losing my mind? Like, am I not normal? But everybody's like, no, we have inner monologues. There's a very select few that don't have one. So it's just like really cool to like pick at their brain a little bit. I'm like, so you really don't like have anything going on up there? Like, what about when you read? Like, what
I
is
know. I
going
was telling you
on?
that. But what are the chances that the two people you happen to ask
Are my
don't
best
have
friends.
it? Yeah, they don't have it, so you're there losing your mind. Like, am I the
Yeah,
only one with the inner
am I
monologue?
crazy?
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
like,
Randomly, I'll be here and I'll just hear in my head, "I could buy myself flowers,"
me?
you know. Like you'll just hear in your
Like,
head the song,
yeah.
you know.
Like, I'll sing to myself. Like, I'll talk to myself. And like I thought I was crazy. I was like, okay, but I'm not answering myself. Like I'm not talking out loud and I'm not answering my own questions. But like my inner monologue is very, very loud. Like I set up like my reminders are in my brain. Like I don't know how people just don't have anything up there. Like
Yeah,
what? It just
yeah.
still blows my mind.
It's tripped me out too that the two people you happen to ask didn't have it. So it's like, oh shoot, does no one
Yeah.
have this?
I
So
was like,
you
I'm going
start
on Twitter about
questioning,
this.
you start questioning reality. It just made me laugh because it's like, how do you not like we just said? How do you not talk to yourself at the
Yeah.
table when you're reading, when you're just listening to music and you could hear it in your head? I
Yeah.
don't know. It's crazy, but I just thought that was funny when you mentioned that.
Yeah. It made me feel like I was like the abnormal one for a second. I was like, wait, y'all, like I gotta go to Twitter. Twitter, please tell me I'm not crazy. I'm not losing my marbles. Like everybody talks to themselves, right? I was like, oh my God, like maybe I'm schizophrenic or something. I was like, what the hell is going on? And I'm like, okay, I'm normal. They're not normal. I'm
Yeah,
normal.
yeah, and they're they're very different. There are a select few that just happen to not have that. I wanted to talk, and I didn't want to talk long about this because it sounds like something you've probably discussed at length or somewhere else. But about this Rob Mercer, and you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. But what do you think was like? I'll say a motivation. Do you think it was um like the idea of scamming people that got him off, or was it gambling addiction? Was it
I think he probably has like a gambling addiction or a drug problem. I'm really not sure,
Mhm.
but the fact of the matter is he scammed multiple people. And it's really disgusting that he did so. I got a lot of hate and, lashback for that. And I think that people need to understand that literally the day that I told him that I would help him, I was still in the hospital myself. I had a pulmonary embolism. If you watch my first Max Payne stream, I was very quiet compared to the second time that I played on the stream. And I texted Vertucci and I just told him, I'm really, really sick. And that Thursday, I also had a CSOP, the feature bounty that I had already said, yes, I'll be there. And I prayed about it and I was like, God, I promise as soon as I'm done with all of my work commitments, I will go to the hospital. And Friday morning, I collapsed. I was staying at the MGM
Oh, jeez.
and I collapsed. I'm in the room alone. I don't know how long I was out. And I call my boyfriend. I'm like, I don't need you to panic, but I need to go to the hospital right now. And he gets there and he's like, what happened? I was like, I collapsed. I don't know how long I was out. I get to the ER, and within 2 minutes of me being there, I'm immediately saying, and I'm like, okay, there's something severely wrong. And I remember like being hooked up to magnesium because they had to give me magnesium. I also had, so I had a bronchitis flare up, I had an asthma flare up, and I had the pulmonary embolism. So I had like three things. I had the whole trifecta going on. And I was like really deathly sick. Like I didn't understand how sick I was.
Mhm,
And I see like Rob Mercer's story. So it's like I had heard a little bit about it. And in that moment, it's like, okay, like I'm probably going to be on bed rest for a while and I'm not going to be able to play everything that I wanted to play. But, my story isn't so bad compared to somebody who is claiming that they're terminally ill. And how do you even have like such a delicate conversation about like asking somebody for proof? Like, how do you, if somebody tells you that they're terminally ill, like you're going to take them for that at face value. You're not going to go and
mhm,
question it. So to me,
of
it's
course.
like, if he only has 6 months to live, like let's make this happen. Um, and just for him to come out and say that he was like that he scammed everybody, it was really heartbreaking. He messaged me, or I think we first got in communication on June 16th, which was the day that I was still hospitalized. And then I remember like asking him for proof, and he sent me like a screenshot. And I'm still in the hospital, so I just kind of overlook it. And I'm like, yeah, like he is sick. I don't dig into it. I
Mhm.
don't do my due diligence, and that's where I messed up. But at the time, like I didn't have a huge platform. I was still like normal. I was still on my come up, and I don't think that people understood that I didn't think I had such a big a platform as I did at the moment. Um, and then June 17th, there's like a Twitter Spaces, and I hop on it, and he kind of threw me under the bus. This is how everybody ended up helping him. He threw me under the bus, and he said something about how Ash has already seen proof. Like I've already sent her my proof, and I was like, oh yeah, like he sent me something, but I didn't go into specifics about what it was. I was under the impression that other people had also seen proof, and it was just a bad game of telephone of he said, she said, and how am I supposed to interrogate somebody and like grill them for like proof? Like, hey, you're
But
dying, give me the proof.
but then you're just being a good person too, like,
Yeah,
it's you wanna take it at his word because you know what I mean? You don't think
yeah,
people are that, especially in the community that you're around, that poker community, you would hope people weren't that sick, to do something like
yeah, and
that. Well, sick-minded to do something like that, you know?
yeah. But I learned my lesson. It definitely made me not want to help out other people. Like I've had other people like reach out to me for fundraisers and just like smaller things like, hey, like can you help my classroom with this? Or like can you help my classroom with this wish list? And it's like as far as that goes, like I'm done sticking my neck out for anyone because the first time that I did it, it bit me in the ass so bad.
No.
And
Yeah, I'm
and
understandable.
I just don't have the time for it right now. Like I would love to help, but I can't. Um, I feel the most guilty about the fact that it took so much away from Cody Daniels. I don't know if you've heard his story, but I think as of now, even Cody is like in the ICU right now. He's been fighting for his life, and he is such a like just a sweet person. He has such a kind soul. He's so humble, and throughout all of the help that he received, like when he played Max Payne Monday, he still donated all of his winnings to Make a Wish, and I think that that spoke volumes of his character and the fact that it took so much away from him and put the spotlight on Rob. Like I still feel really bad about that because there was so much more that could have been done for just Cody
Mhm.
instead of him, having to share the spotlight with Rob. And I feel really bad about that, but it is what it is. I've spoken to Cody multiple times, and he's like, we were all just trying to help somebody who we thought was dying. And he's like, and I don't blame you for it. So that's all I can say about it. He is a disgusting, sick minded person. And I hope that wherever Rob is at, that one day justice is served. Um, that's all I can hope for. I believe that in this world, you reap what you sow. And he did a lot of people dirty, and karma will bite him in the ass eventually. So that's all I
No,
can
I
hope for.
I believe that. No, definitely, and even what makes me sick about it is even you too. with the issues you were going through at that moment, and the fact that you have a family, that you have, you know, financial obligations too. You didn't ever ask for help. You didn't ever, like, I'm sure there are a lot of moments where you could have solicited assistance
Yeah.
from the community and they gladly would have given it to you, but
Yeah,
you grinded from the bottom and you made it,
yeah, I
so.
didn't want to, like, depend on that, like, I didn't think that my situation was as bad, like, I remember going to the doctor, and they were like, "If you had gotten here anywhere from, like, 24 to 72 hours later, like, you probably would have been dead, like, that blood clot would have traveled to your heart or your brain." Um, and it just made me, like, really grateful for my life in that moment, and it's like, you know, I'm not dead. I'm still here. I have always been really giving, I've always wanted to help others whenever I can, even if I don't have much to offer. So I think that was my way of like trying to help out Rob Mercer, and it just bit me in the butt. That's all I can say. It bit me in the ass, but never for 1 second did I say, let me go start a GoFundMe. I was very open with my parents, and I was like, hey, like I'm struggling with my health issues. My dad was really worried. My brother called me like that same day that I was in the hospital, and he's like, I'll get on a flight right now and go to Vegas. And I was like, no, like don't do that. Like I'm gonna be okay. Um, And it was just really frustrating for me. I was very depressed. I was in bed for like 3 weeks. I couldn't really do anything. And my whole plan going out to Vegas was that at the halfway point, like at the last week of June, I would fly back home to be with my children for a week and then fly back to finish playing up some events and playing cash. And I couldn't do that. So it's like I'm in Vegas. I'm stuck in an Airbnb. I'm stuck in a hotel, because I was traveling between an Airbnb and a hotel. It's like I'm stuck out here and I can't even fly home to see my children. Like, what can I do? I couldn't travel for like 6 weeks. I was banned from flying. And like, even now, if I fly, I have to wear compression socks because there's always the possibility of another blood clot.
Hmm.
But my situation still didn't seem as bad as somebody who was claiming that they had, terminal illness or terminal cancer. And it's just disgusting.
No,
Twitter
yeah.
Twitter is a coin flip as well. People can either be
Tell me
very
about
nice or
it.
people can tear you down. And for the longest, people were like, "Oh, well, like Ash is like in on the scam, like she's getting money from this." And I'm like, I never even met the dude in person. Like I reached out to him, and he avoided me at all costs. Like he didn't want anything to do with me. Um, so I felt like I had done my part. I did what I could to get his story out there. And then when I heard back from Bertucci about how he was just being like super ungrateful and super like rude to everybody who had helped him out, it was it was devastating. I think that's the word. Because it's like we all came together to help you because we think that you're really really sick, and for you to turn around and just be ungrateful about everything that's been given to you, like I don't know. That I think that's when I started to distance myself, and then like 3 or 4 weeks later, it came out that he had scammed everyone, and yeah, it was just it made me sick. It made me really sick. I remember, like, crying about it and just being really upset, like, how could somebody do this? Um,
No, it's
but it just
sickening.
goes to yeah, it just goes to prove that there's just really sick-minded people out there.
Hmm. No, I believe it. I know it, and I hate that you had to, firsthand deal with that. It sounds obviously like you don't deserve it, at all. There's a special place in hell for people
Those
like
kind of people.
him. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And he'll definitely, if he isn't feeling some sort of revenge now, he'll definitely, it'll get, you'll feel it at some point in
Yeah.
life or afterwards. But and I could see why it would sour you to want to help anyone,
Yeah.
but even especially after that. But I know even just you doing what you're doing, following your dream, I feel like it's an inspiration. So I feel like you are helping people. I could tell like my two nieces, like, hey, here's an example of someone following their dream and never give up, and they could actually, make it.
Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
the Cinderella story, the rags to riches,
The sky's
whatever
the
you.
limit.
Yeah, and then also I could tell her, and even from the story too, don't trust people because
Yeah, don't.
like
Just be
I
very careful.
yeah, because the world is just, I don't know, it's crazy now, and that's how I've always been, real sour like that too. But my mother, made me that way. But I get why you are hesitant, but you're still an inspiration. Don't think you're not helping
Thank you.
people, just because of that. You are just doing what you're doing. And yeah, I thank you so much for the time today, for
Yeah,
to speaking
absolutely.
with me. And your nails are gorgeous. I'd say that. I kept
Yeah,
I kept seeing them when you were there with them. My God, they're beautiful.
thank you.
But yeah, where can people find you? Just on Twitter, on Instagram?
I am on Twitter as Ash Kardash. I think you have a link down below, and then I am on Instagram as well. Um, I have a Facebook, but I decided to keep that a little bit more private because I do post like pictures of my kids. People are really rude, so I try to
Oh
keep like
yeah,
my private life completely just like on Facebook, and it's a little bit for family, but you can follow me on Twitter or Instagram for sure.
that's great. And I hope nothing but the best for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope it
Likewise.
keeps. Yeah, thank you. I hope you just keep being an example to, yeah, that you can live out your dreams and keep going. And it is about faith. You could say it's luck, but you're really putting in the work and the grind to
Absolutely.
make it too. So I really love that. But yeah, thank you so much for your time. I really do
No,
appreciate it.
thank you. Thank you for having me
And
on.
yeah, and we'll see y'all later. Take care, everyone.
All right.